Before the world knew her as the dynamic lead singer of Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, Martha Reeves was simply trying to make ends meet and find her place in the music industry. She took a job at Motown Records, not as a singer but as a secretary, answering phones, scheduling sessions, and handling day-to-day office tasks. But deep down, she was a performer waiting for her moment. That moment came one fateful day when a scheduled singer failed to show up for a recording session. With time ticking and the studio booked, someone asked Martha to step into the booth and lay down a demo just to keep things moving. What happened next was pure magic. Her voice, full of raw emotion and unmistakable soul, it captured the attention of the Motown staff instantly. What was supposed to be a temporary fill-in turned into a career-defining opportunity. That unexpected chance transformed Martha Reeves from behind-the-scene desk support to front and center star power. It was the unplanned moment that gave birth to one of Motown's most beloved groups and helped shape the sound of an entire generation. Hey yo, what's going on, guys? This is Kanoa Speaks. We diving into the archives to bring you the moments from history that shaped the R&B and soul genres. Let's set the scene. Detroit, Michigan, early 1960s, the Motor City was buzzing. A new kind of energy was in the air. The sound of soul, rhythm, and dreams being pressed onto vinyl. And right at the heart of it was a young woman named Martha Reeves. Born July 18, 1941 in Alabama and raised in Detroit, Martha grew up in a household filled with gospel music and strong Southern values. Her family eventually settled in the city's east side, where music was a constant presence. Martha sang in the church, harmonized with her siblings, and studied classical voice in high school. From an early age, her voice stood out, soulful, powerful, and unmistakably her own. But talent alone didn't guarantee her success. After graduating from Northeastern High School, Martha chased her passion by performing in local clubs around Detroit. She even joined a group called The Fascinations and briefly recorded with them. Still, breaking into the music industry wasn't easy, especially for a young black woman trying to be heard in a male-dominated business. Determined to stay close to the music, she took a more practical route, working a day job that would place her at the heart of the action. And that job was a secretary gig at Motown Records, the label that was quietly becoming a cultural powerhouse. In a buzzing office filled with musical legends in the making, Martha filed papers, answered phones, and scheduled studio time, never knowing that her own shot at stardom was just around the corner. But she wasn't in the spotlight yet. She was getting closer though, much closer. Martha Reeves may have been hired as a secretary, but her heart never really left the stage. She was sharp, dependable, and well-liked around the Motown offices, but she wasn't shy about letting folks know that she could really sing. In fact, she had been making the rounds on Detroit's club circuit, holding her own on stage with the confidence that came from years of gospel roots and pure determination. At Motown, she worked under Mickey Stevenson, the label's first A&R director, whose job was to scout talent and develop hitmakers. Stevenson had seen many hopefuls come and go, but Martha had something special about her. One day, he invited her to the studio to help out with some background vocals, and it wasn't an official audition, but it was a step towards something much bigger. Then came the twist of fate that changed absolutely everything. One afternoon, a singer scheduled for a recording session didn't show up. Time was money and the studio clock was ticking. With no one else around to fill in, Stevenson turned to Martha. "Can you cut this demo for me?" he asked. Nervous but ready, she stepped behind the mic and gave it everything she had, and the result was pure electricity. Her voice lit up the room, raw, soulful, and effortlessly powerful. That one demo opened doors that had been closed for way too long. Suddenly, she wasn't just the girl behind the desk. She was a voice Motown couldn't ignore. And it wasn't long before Martha officially became part of the Motown recording roster. Alongside Rosaline Ashford and Annette Beard, she became the front woman of a new group. The transition from secretary to lead singer had begun, and the next chapter would take her from the office straight to the charts. With Martha Reeves now front and center, Martha and the Vandellas were ready to make their mark. The group had vocal chops, but now they had something more. A sound that matched the energy of a new era in black music. Fueled by Martha's commanding voice, the Vandellas brought heat, rhythm, and sass to the Motown catalog. Their breakthrough came in 1963 with the explosive single, "Love is Like a Heat Wave," written by the powerhouse songwriting team Holland Dozier Holland. And the song was a sonic fireball, bursting with gospel-infused vocals, danceable grooves, and the youthful urgency. When it dropped, it set the charts on fire, peaking at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and earning a Grammy nomination. Certainly, Martha was no longer just a promising voice, she was a star. The success of Heatwave launched Martha and the Vandellas into a national spotlight. Their sound stood apart from Motown's smoother, polished acts like the Supremes. The Vandellas were grittier, more electric, representing a bolder, brasher side of R&B. And they weren't just singing the love songs, they were delivering soul with that fire to it. And the hits kept coming. Songs like Quicksand, Nowhere to Run, Jimmy Mack cemented their place as one of the most dynamic girl groups of the 1960s. But it was the 1964 anthem, Dancing in the Street, that truly etched their legacy into pop culture. It became more than a party record. It became a call to action, an unofficial anthem of joy and resistance during the civil rights era. Martha, with her towering vocals and unshakable stage presence, was now leading one of Motown's most vital acts. And the little studio on West Grand Boulevard, it was now known around the world as Hitsville, USA. But the stardom came with pressure, and the next phase of Martha's journey would test her like never before. You see, by the mid-1960s, Martha Reeves was at the top. Martha and the Vandellas were in a constant rotation on radios across America. They toured relentlessly, but performing on iconic stages, sharing marquees with legends, and appearing on major TV shows like American Bandstand and Ed Sullivan Show. But behind the glitz and gold records, life was moving at a dangerously fast pace. The demands of the Motown machine were non-stop. The label pushed its artists hard, recording sessions, rehearsals, interviews, wardrobe fittings, choreography, endless tours. Martha, now a household name, was expected to deliver perfection on and off stage. She became a symbol of strength, soul, and sophistication. But the pressure to maintain that image began to really take its toll on Martha. The spotlight was bright, but it also came with shadows. Fame brought stress, and stress brought escape. Like many artists in that era, Martha struggled with substance abuse, particularly prescription drugs, which were often handed out casually in the entertainment industry to keep performers up for the stage and down for the rest. The emotional toll of relentless touring, personal isolation, and the weight of being a black woman navigating a male-dominated industry slowly began to chip away at her mental health. Meanwhile, Motown itself was changing. As the label grew more corporate and began its transition to Los Angeles in the early 1970s, many of its original artists felt abandoned and pushed aside. The once tight-knit family vibe of Hitsville, USA began to turn into a way colder, more business-minded approach, and as the sound of the music evolved, newer acts were brought in to keep up with shifting trends, leaving groups like the Vandellas fighting to stay relevant. In 1972, after nearly a decade of hits, Martha and the Vandellas disbanded. The era of polished Motown girl groups was fading, and so was Martha's place in the mainstream. But even as her career dimmed in the public eye, her story was far from over. Martha Reeves had faced the highs of success and the lows of burnout, but she wasn't done just yet. The next chapter would reveal her true resilience, not just as a singer, but as a survivor. The curtain may have closed on Martha and the Vandellas, but Martha Reeves herself refused to fade into the background. After years of riding the Motown wave, from the chaos of touring to the euphoric highs of hit records, she found herself at a crossroads. The fame had come, and the lights had dimmed, and now it was time to reckon what would come next. In the years that followed the group's breakup, Martha began focusing on her health and reclaiming her voice, not just as a singer, but as a woman who had survived one of the most intense eras in music history. She entered treatment for her substance use and began speaking openly about her struggles, and began to break the silence around mental health in a way few artists dared to do at that time. But Martha wasn't completely done with music, though. In 1974, she released her first solo album, Martha Reeves, stepping out from the Vandellas shadow and showing the world she could still carry a record on her own. She continued to tour, both in the U.S. and internationally, keeping the fame of classic Motown alive for newer generations. Whether it was a club in London or a festival stage in the States, when Martha Reeves sang, people listened. Beyond the music, she also stepped into politics and activism. In 2005, she was elected to the Detroit City Council, where she served for 4 years, using her platform to advocate for the arts, mental health awareness, and community development. Her journey had come full circle, and she came from the streets of Detroit to the halls of City Hall. Today, Martha Reeves stands as a living legend. She's a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, a trailblazer for women in music, and a symbol of resilience. Her story isn't just about Motown hits or vintage vinyl. It's about perseverance, passion, and power. She took the chance behind a microphone as a secretary, and that moment rewrote her entire destiny. Martha Reeves didn't just survive the industry. She redefined it on her own terms. And decades later, she's still standing, still singing, and still inspired. Cheers.